I'm sorry for your experience, but I think that you need to talk about the issue of her comment, which was about a mother asking her daughter to cover up in front of her stepfather, which is the contrary of what happened to you. I think it's a very important topic to be addressed because many mothers of estranged adult children are divorced, and this situation and confusion about their mother's behavior may happen a lot with young girls with very protective mothers. Can you see that issue from the other side of the story? You mean mothers who are sexualizing their children, right? Because that's what the video was about. And yes, mine was contrary. My stepfather had to fight with my mother to allow me to wear a bathing suit top when I was pushing 12 years old. And like, we weren't at a beach where everybody wasn't wearing a top, by the way, and my mother was wearing a top. I wasn't allowed to have one. And she knew it made me uncomfortable. As someone who was a single mother, and actually at some point in time I was engaged and I was with someone for about 5 years, and we lived together for 2.5 of those 5 years. I have 2 daughters and a son who at that time ranged between the age of like 9 and 16. I would never tell my daughter to adjust her clothing if I felt that the man I was with was looking at her some kind of way. Because that's not on my daughter, that's on him. And that's where the problem lies, and you don't see it. That isn't to say that I didn't parent my daughters to dress in a particular way, and that we didn't have structure in our household and how we walked around, for example. I come from a household where my mother walked around in her birthday suit when my brother was in his late teens, knowing how uncomfortable it made us all. I come from a background where I experienced CSA starting with my grandfather. I married somebody in law enforcement with a degree in psychology. Lucky for me, actually. And lucky for him that he got me. And when we were raising our children, we were aware of the fact we had a blended family with step siblings, and we both saw the world in the same way in terms of being what we deemed to be appropriate in our household. So nobody was walking around shirtless or in their underwear, boys included. That just wasn't a thing. All this to be said, I would never allow my daughter to think that the way that a man looks at her, particularly in a way that's inappropriate, has anything to do with who she is and how she presents herself. That's grape culture. That's victim blaming and shaming, as a survivor of CSA and SA. Oh, if I wasn't wearing that. That's basically what you're doing here, what you're saying here. That isn't being a protective mother. That's a mother protecting her interest, not her child's. If I was in a relationship with someone that looked at one of my daughters in a sexualized way, or my son for that matter, he can fuck right off because he'd be gone. Period. And my children would likely not even know why. You know why that is? Because that's actually how you protect children. You don't make them responsible for adults' bad behavior.